Hey everyone, I wanted to say something really quick before we start this episode. You know, a lot of us have been taught that the season is supposed to represent love, joy, and celebration. And for many it is, but for many others it's a reminder about pain and loneliness and rejection. It's a dark time of season. So I want to speak to those who are experiencing the darkness right now. It's literally the darkest time of the year, physically. So in the Pacific Northwest where I live, it gets dark at about like 4 p.m. and it sucks. It affects my mood, everything. But something that I've always thought about during this time are the lights during the holidays. Christmas lights, Hanukkah candles, just light in a dark time. In the midst of darkness, all we need sometimes is a little light to shine onto some things to give us hope. And maybe that light is bright, maybe it's dim. But even if it's dim, it can be enough to show us terrain that's safe to take a step on. When things feel dark, look for the lights and move one step at a time toward it. Happy holidays, everyone, and may there be light in the darkness. Hey everyone, welcome to Safe and Sound, a podcast about the intersection between music and our mental health. I'm your host, Jeremy Houtsma, licensed mental health therapist and music lover. Today's episode really encapsulates what I think this podcast is really all about. My guest today is friend and colleague Knox Burnett. Knox is a licensed mental health counselor and trauma specialist who's been practicing for over 13 years in the Seattle, Washington area. Knox is also a musician himself and has played in bands The Dirt and the Flood and Wilder. In this episode, Knox and I discuss the intersection of therapy, music, and movement. How in therapy we create our own music, so to speak, and how trauma and other mental health issues can be soothed by movement and vibration, and yes, even moshing in the pit. It was a fascinating talk and a chance to reconnect with an old friend. I hope you guys enjoyed the interview. When did you start your own private practice?
Let's see. I think I started right after I graduated in a very limited capacity.
Yeah.
I was working at the Uni Gospel Mission for 4 years and then ended that, started like a fledgling private practice on the heels of I did my internship at a church in Bellevue that I'm forgetting the name of. But then I worked at Opal, which is a eating disorder clinic in the U District.
Okay.
And that was kind of like I cleaned houses. I had like 3 clients, and then worked at Opal for like 20 hours a week, getting hours.
Wow.
And was newly married.
Yeah. So was it for you? Was the LMHCA the associate because you weren't fully licensed? Do you feel like that was a hindrance?
Not at all.
No, really.
Yeah, because I still to this day I'm not an in-network practitioner.
Okay.
And so I was doing kind of private pay. I found out along the way that you could do out-of-network billing with
As
an
an
LMHCA.
Oh, interesting.
Or at least I did, and some people told me that was a thing, so I sent it in and they would reimburse. But yeah, I mean, I still don't take in-network stuff because of a whole bunch of different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, kind of try to augment that with private pay, sliding scale, and things like that.
Do you mind sharing some of those reasons that you don't take insurance? I think it's important for people to know, because I think that's one of the main barriers for people. They don't understand.
Yeah.
All they see is like, oh, you charge this amount, right?
Most definitely.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, there's several reasons. One, administratively it's just a very difficult arena for me, and the amount of work that goes into trying to just get paid. I when I was working at that eating disorder clinic, I was really close friends with the billing, the person that did primarily did most of the billing for the company. And COVID was happening, and I reached out to them, and I was like so sure that everyone was going to lose their jobs,
Mm.
and that the only way that I would still be able to make any money is if I became an in-network practitioner. And reached out to her, and she's like, Knox, just don't do it. It is so painful, and there's so many roadblocks, and you're gonna provide worse care because you're gonna be significantly more stressed out, and you'll have to see less people. And so, I mean, for me, like I want this to be, I don't want there to be a barrier of entry. I don't want this to be for like just folks that have a lot of money and work in tech. Um, so I won't, anyway, like kind of playing with different ways to get people either reimbursed
Yeah.
through the kind of insurance that they have, or like, okay, how do we, I think, come up with a reasonable like rate. So I know that I don't charge what I should, like comparatively,
Hmm.
for the experience and things that I do. But like I have enough of what I need to be able
Yeah.
to pay my bills, and that's really like I guess ethically, that's like where I want to kind of sit is like,
Hmm.
do I have what I need? Great. I want this to be available to people. Like, how can I make that, parts of my client load or like this is reduced fee.
Yeah.
And that's sort of, it's parts of it is for students. And then, that's augmented by the folks that can pay the full fee as well. But like,
I'm curious about how you view the money relationship in terms of therapy.
say more.
um, well, I mean, kind of like some of the things that I've kind of been, I don't want to say been taught or heard of, was that one, everybody has a relationship with money, right? And I think that the exchanging of money somewhat keeps, I don't want to say a barrier, but a professional relationship, right?
Sure.
And accountability and things like that.
Sure.
So, you know, uh, how do you view the the exchange of money for services in the counseling world? And do you find any therapeutic value in that?
For sure. I love having that conversation with clients because it tells me that the person that I'm sitting with is starting to be honest with me.
Mm,
Because of course they're thinking about it, and it is expensive, and it kind of creates a dynamic where um, if you're not actually serious about doing the work, you should be questioning why you're paying money to me,
sure.
right? Like. And I don't want that to be that's not a judgment against them. It's not a judgment against me. Like it's just like, yeah, this is a lot of money. And you showed up 20 minutes late
Yeah.
and you have to pay me that money one way or the other. And then, you're like automatically in this sort of wealth of material. Like, what do you do with disappointment? How's a person like handle shame or like there's a lot of folks that because anger is so hard for most of us in the West to express, or at least if you're from where I'm from and you're white, like like it's there's a lot of folks that will hold that in, right?
Yeah.
And you're kind of you'll watch them like slowly begin to make moves backwards or kind of express things more passively. So as a therapist, I'm given kind of a glimpse because this is an entry point that there is tension. It's like either, we're going to start talking about the real tensions that exist between us and the real feelings and like frustrations and ideas that someone has about it, or they're going to kind of retract into themselves and start to kind of like, I don't know, they just won't be real in
Right.
relationship. So I think it creates a lot of pressure points in a good way. When I was working in my internship, there was like a $15 copay, and that was it. And the amount of times that people canceled last minute, the amount of times that people just didn't really take serious anything that was
Mm,
happening for themselves. Like money, I think because it hurts when you have to give it away, right? It's
yeah.
like, okay, like I mean, there's folks on my client load that we regularly talk about. I'm bringing this up. Why are you paying me? Like, what are you doing here? Like, not because I don't have like an idea necessarily about like that there's something good can happen even if they're not progressing.
Yeah.
Like, but because like I want them to kind of wade into that material of like, man, my decisions matter in life. They're costly.
Yeah.
Even if I have just money to throw away, like to have someone reflect, like, no one ever, a lot of people don't have money just to like give away.
Right. Right.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
I love it.
I always find the fact that like when people are like, well, therapy's a scam because they're just trying to get you to come back and stuff like that. I've always said therapy is a terrible business model, specifically because like the goal is to get better.
Sure.
Like,
I want to work myself out of a job.
yeah, exactly. You
Yep.
know what I mean? And like that is sort of the goal, right? If you keep it that way, right? And there are, I think it's hard as a therapist, if I'm just being honest, it's like you have real financial things that are going on for you as a business person, right?
Sure.
And like there is a proclivity sometimes to be like freaking out about your own finances and also trying to take care of the client and do what's right for the client as well,
Absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely.
And
Especially early on, I felt that bind. And like, if you're not aware of that as a therapist, that like that tension between, on some level, like if you don't see enough people, you're going to start feeling a kind of pressure, which is why I actually started cleaning houses.
yeah,
So I was like, I don't want that to be on my people. Like, I don't want to need them to show up because if I
right.
need them to show up, I'm going to create something with them that's like actually, it's not really for them at that point.
Hmm.
Um, but you actually made me think a little bit like this past year. I heard this story from this Vancouver clinician named Gabor Mate. You might be
Hmm.
familiar with Gabor. Written a bunch about addiction, and he just wrote a book called The Myth of Normal, which is wonderful. Um, but he was sharing this story about going on a psychedelic retreat with a bunch of other kind of Western healers, and getting to the retreat center, and he was thinking to himself that like the two shamans that were, or a couple of shamans that were there leading, were going to be like, oh, these guys are like, you know, actually they thought that's that. I want to make sure I tell the story right. The shamans were thinking that these Western healers were going to come and it was going to be kind of like an easier experience for them.
Sure.
But it was the actual reverse that like these, therapists and different like healing professionals from the West came into this place and they were like, they reflected to Gabor like, we've never seen more trapped energy.
Hmm.
Do you guys not do anything like to kind of ritualistically discharge and like recover from the things that you're taking in? And he was like, nope, not at all. And
Yeah.
and I don't like, the story is really fascinating, kind of where he takes it is really fascinating, but it brought up for me earlier this year, like, man, I wonder what it is, like what kind of residue, like what does it mean to walk towards someone in their like trauma, like to be sensitive enough in my own body, like to feel that in a way.
Yeah.
And like what happens when I then leave that client and then go see the next client, or leave that client and then go hang out with my son, right? Like if I'm not really aware of that, then minimally there's going to be this kind of crossover, right?
Right.
Where it's like I'm you know this well, like you're carrying this residue, and even when you're not consciously thinking about it, like maybe your stomach is hurting a little bit, and then that's kind of triggering some other things, and then you're a little bit shorter. So this whole year for me has been trying to take very serious, like how much, ending on time, starting on time, kind of creating some rituals around like, I sage my room. I don't know if I believe in any of this stuff,
Sure.
but it's been like a really healthy practice to just say like, okay, here's my ritual. I there's some somatic exercises that I do. One of them is it's called shaking the bones, which is just sort of like, moving around,
Yeah.
releasing, kind of shedding, the let's just say the energetic footprint of the last person that I was with. And then I do a thing uh, called a whirling dervish, which is part of it's like a Turkish practice from this sort of set of practices called the Five Tibetans. But I spin around in circles about 7, 8 times and then lay down on the ground. And it's almost like a tornado goes through your energetic
Mm,
system and it resettles it so that I
interesting.
kind of come back from that, hopefully, like resensitized. But like, did that before we started talking because I was just finished with the client and was trying to imagine like, you know, I don't necessarily want to
Yeah.
bring them into this. Um, and I'll do it after this, right? To kind of try to
Yeah.
reset.
That's super fascinating. I think that that is something that so I mean, I got severely burned out is what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
And I had had some pretty traumatic things happen to me in Portland, both both physically and safety wise. Um, Portland was a dangerous place to
Mm,
me
mm,
and a
mm,
very dangerous place. I was
mm,
assaulted there. I worked in like a school system for like pretty disturbed kids,
mm,
and there was like padded rooms, and I just remember going home and hearing like being so sensitive to noise and like hearing at least in my brain like the kids screaming.
yeah.
um and I thought it was fine, like,
Yeah.
you know. And I think like when I finally hit my own mental health stuff, like my therapist was like, I think this is just years of trauma that is coming up and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
just overtaking you in a sense.
Yeah.
And it was funny because like when I thought about these thoughts, when I thought about being assaulted, I it doesn't bring up this feeling
Hmm.
of like I don't have like a disturbing a huge emotional response.
Uh-huh.
But
Uh-huh.
what I do remember is that my sense of safety was completely shattered that day. And I still don't know how that affected me long term. Because I was like, I'm fine. I'm
Sure.
fine, you know?
Sure.
And I think the first time that I knew that something was wrong was after my son was born
Mm.
and my second son. And I didn't want to go back to work.
Huh.
Like I I had this, it was the first time, granted I took maybe 2 weeks off and that
Yeah.
was like the longest I'd ever taken, you
Yeah.
know,
Oh, dude.
type of thing.
I
Um,
know this story well, and it's
yeah,
so painful.
yeah. And I'm just learning or just trying to work through some of that stuff now. But I unfortunately did the thing where I was burned out and I mean, this is probably going to make me look horrible, but I don't really care because I think honesty is like, is so important and for people to know that we're human beings too,
For
you
sure.
know, but essentially we were struggling with money and my wife was burned out at her job and I was thinking about leaving altogether.
Mm.
I've thought about that many times. Um,
Existence.
yeah, no, not
Okay.
at that point, like leaving
Okay.
the therapy world.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Gotcha.
Um,
Gotcha.
and I was offered a really good position for money. And I took that position when I was burned out.
Yeah.
And that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Because it led to all this emotional turmoil, physical
Right.
turmoil, all that kind of stuff. But I did something when I was burned out and
Huh.
I should have listened to
Uh-huh.
myself,
Uh-huh.
and well, not that I should have. I just felt a lot of shame. that I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't hang. You know what I mean? I couldn't hang
Yeah.
with like therapy at that moment. I struggle with a lot of shame of like dealing with mental health because
Yeah.
I thought like, and this probably sounds stupid, but like
Doubtful.
yeah, I thought that as a practitioner, like I should have my mental health in a really
Sure.
good spot. That I, dealing with a mental health thing, then that I wasn't useful. I don't know. There's just so much shame about it,
Yeah.
and I still struggle with that.
That
And
you wouldn't need the same kind of like space and attention and care as like
yeah,
all the people that you saw.
yeah, or just even a judgment that I would pass on other therapists who were struggling with their own mental health stuff.
Totally.
you
Totally.
know, where I would
Totally.
just feel like, oh, how can you be affected and like stuff like that. And it's still a concept. I think there was so much pride that I held of
Yeah.
having it together. And then when it
Yeah,
all
man.
falls apart, it's like I had to leave therapy. There's still things that trigger me that I have to
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
remove myself from,
Uh-huh.
And so I don't know. I say that to say that it is a tough job.
It is a
It
very
is
tough job.
it's a tough job. And I think also to stay present and stay inquisitive and to doing the right ethical thing
Yeah.
and is difficult in a lot of ways that people don't know.
Yeah. And
You
it's
know?
funny, I don't know if you've gotten this, but like for those of you that are listening, uh most therapists have a similar, let's just say, like, I don't know, backstory,
Yeah.
right? Like, we generally have grown up in some sort of caretaking role. It's like very tied into our family systems. Like, and I'm not, I'll speak for myself in this,
Yeah.
but like, there was a joke that I didn't realize that I had said such a profoundly like correct thing when I was seeing some early marriage clients, but they were like, "How long have you been counseling?" And a part of me was like, "Oh, I've been doing this since I was like 3, man."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Right? There's a familiarity, like, and almost like an ease. I know how to orient to this in a
Right.
way, which makes me, it makes all of us, I think, pretty unaware of the cost. And like, it's like if I was a fireman, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm walking towards a fire. Like
Right.
I'm sitting with the most uncomfortable, painful, scary, like shadows of a person multiple times a day,
Yeah.
right? And I definitely like I should have included this earlier. I started exploring kind of a lot of this somatic stuff for myself this year because I had this chronic illness just kind of pop out of nowhere. And earlier this year, I got sick with mono, and then I got strep throat, and then I got strep throat again, and then I started having joint pain, and it went from my wrist to my fingers to every part of my body. Um, and so, like this whole year essentially for me has been about like how am I like what am I putting into myself? Food, conversation, relationship, like what kind of environments do I live in, like literally metaphorically. Um and how is my body kind of like, how's it letting me know, right? How's it
Yeah.
saying no to something even if I'm not saying no to it directly? Which I think is just we hear some about so much burnout in our profession because I think we're probably the majority of us are actually really unaware of the cost.
Yeah.
We're doing the thing that we've always done, not knowing that like, oh no, like this is this is hard
Yeah.
and costly. Um,
I talked to one of my therapists, and when I was kind of going through some of this, they were just kind of like, all of us, and I don't know how true this is, but it wasn't true to me at the time. But they were like, most of us have PTSD in some
sure,
form or
sure,
fashion, you know. And she said, like, I think it's pretty inevitable for that to happen when you're sitting with people's trauma,
Most definitely.
and because I think what you're talking about a little bit is when the body says no, right?
You know the reference. Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
to Gabor where it's when our body kind of physically manifests
Sure.
these things. And
Sure.
when I had my kind of mental health crisis, that was my body saying no. My body was starting to say no in a lot of ways that I
That's
wasn't
right.
really paying all that. I was paying attention to because I was like, why did all of a sudden I start getting really bad gastric reflux? Like why?
Yeah.
Like my body took over and was like, we're not doing therapy.
Yep.
We're not doing therapy right now.
We're not doing stress.
Yeah, we're not doing stress right now.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it created more stress. um, both
The other part of you
financially.
is like, so how are we doing money?
Right, right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How are we doing money? How are we dealing with these constant feelings
Sure.
of being hyper vigilant and all those different things?
Sure.
I'm curious, you said something about like how you orient yourself or how you are somebody that I've always known to be musically inclined, to enjoy music. How does during this specific year, how do you feel like your relationship with music has kind of like, how do you orient that into the type of music you listen to? Or like, how do
Totally.
you use that music at all?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, sometimes like it's like music will find us, right? And like almost like teach us something because we or I'll resonate with something, right?
Mhm.
Whether it's a lyric or whether it's like a kind of a tone or like an intensity of something and something about that, well, it's like it if I'm going like this internally and the music that I'm listening to is going like this, right? There's this dissonance.
Yeah.
I was actually playing with this right before, about an hour before our time today, because I woke up this morning, had like a little bit of a tiff with my wife. Like it didn't feel great, and I kind of I wanted to clear that out. I wanted to either like I need to either talk to her and have some reconciliation. In this case, I didn't think it was like it wasn't really a big thing. We just kind of had like a moment. But I had this little pocket. It felt like it was in me. And I went out and started walking, and I kind of unconsciously just put on some really beautiful piano music. And it did not resonate with me.
Hmm.
Like it was like it was singing something that I knew it was like, yeah, I'd really like that. I want in this moment to relax and to feel that. But I think the only way that I was going to get there is actually to turn on something that actually spun with me,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? Like that actually like sung the tune of like I think I was a little bit angry. I think I was a little bit frustrated, and I think I needed to like feel that
Hmm.
if I was ever going to kind of move towards something that was more like regulated and like connected.
Yeah.
Um, I had this just reminds me of a story. Um, I was working with a client many years ago, and he was a musician and an artist, and just generally like I don't know I feel like in some ways when you're marginalized, sometimes it's easier to just like try shit,
Yeah. Of
right, and
course.
break
Yeah.
rules, right? He was very much marginalized as a person for various reasons, but he would bring me in his music. And one day he brought me in this like recording that he made of a radio station, and he was like, "Knox, this sounds incredible. It like I don't know what it is about it, but
Hmm.
it just like it's everything. It's just this is how I feel inside." And he gave me the recording, and he had recorded like some sort of station between several stations
Hmm.
where you're like, well, welcome to the
Hey.
Roger Cronkite, and then it's like, and then like
Hey,
all
wow.
happening at the same time with all this static and like,
Wow.
and he was like, that feels amazing. It feels so good. I'm like, yeah, you're like telling me your story. Like this is it was like this perfect manifestation of his family life,
Hmm.
of his internal world, right? And when he heard it, it was like, that's it. That's what it sounds like inside of me. And for me as a therapist, I'm like, oh, this is so delightful.
Yeah.
Because if I listened to that for 30 seconds, like I'd want to jump off a bridge,
Right.
which interestingly enough, he thought about all the time.
Yeah.
Like, right? Like it was like I was
Yeah.
transported through that kind of music to the internal world that he had, which gave me a little bit of imagination of like, wow, like there's something about that, right? That like helps me understand. So anyway, long story, maybe just say
No,
like
that's really cool.
I love how like if we learn how to listen and maybe do like a little bit of translation, right? It's like, huh, like why does this resonate with me right now? Like, and some of that might be easily reconciled like cognitively, like, oh, I'm having a tough time, or like I'm feeling pretty depressed, or oh, I'm like actually got a wealth of anger inside of me. But I don't know about you, but like I think my most profound experiences with music have been like when it sings to like an unconscious, unknown part of
Mm,
me. And it's like, ooh, like that's saying all the wrong things.
mm.
I don't like what that's saying here.
Yeah.
But this part of me is like, yes.
Which is so, I mean, it's really interesting because at our core, I think we desire to be understood, right? And
Mhm.
that somebody gets it, that somebody, so that we feel less lonely. And I
Absolutely.
think a common theme, even when I was talking with Greg last night, was like using music to not feel so lonely.
That's right.
Right. And it's a point of connection for people where they're like, even if I feel alone all around everything, like this music is speaking to me or these lyrics are speaking to me. It's a
Yep.
point of identifiable, like, this gets me. This
Yes.
gets how I feel. It expresses for me how I feel,
Yep.
And it it's so, I mean, that's how I've always connected with music. And sometimes I felt, I don't want to say ostracized, but like that people aren't getting how important music or lyrics are. Like it's everything to me.
Yep.
Like the
Yep.
experience of music and connecting to, I mean, that's part of the reason why I was doing the podcast was because like I was talking with the people who made the music that impacted me.
Absolutely.
Right. And I mean, totally like, I don't even say like fanboying out, but there was something that was like, dude, like this was a seminal experience for me.
Uh-huh.
And like one of them happened to be, I went to go see Forever Seems Forever play with like in college. And their frontman at the time, Jason Gleason, amazing frontman. He just made the crowd part of it.
Mhm.
And there was a part where he threw like the mic out into the crowd to sing, and I could hear my voice over the PA. And I was just like, that was such a cool moment for me
Uh-huh.
because not only was there this collective experience, but I was part of it. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? Like I could be heard, literally heard, in
Uh-huh.
this kind of experience. And it felt amazing,
Uh-huh.
to be heard,
Uh-huh.
even if like connecting with these lyrics. And I think the greater sense of self in being in community. And I think that music
Yep.
brings community.
Yep.
I'm actually really curious because you went to go see Minus the Bear twice,
I did.
right? Um,
I did.
which is awesome. And you also said that you were starting to go to more shows, and I'm really curious what that experience has been like for you in
Yeah.
reconnecting with going to live shows. Like,
Yeah.
what is something that you experienced in that moment of presentness, like watching the band? Like, what was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, um, gosh, so many things. Part of me was traveling backwards in time, right?
Hmm.
Traveling backwards in time to the first time I heard Minus the Bears music, which, as a person from Clemson, South Carolina, I was in college. I had never heard tapping before.
Hmm.
Um, I loved like uh, I loved like really beautiful, clean guitar melody, but I never heard something that complicated.
Yeah.
So I'm transported back when I'm hearing those songs. They played some early stuff. I'm traveling through breakups. I'm traveling through
Mhm.
rides in the car. Where I'm like, you guys, like, I'm gonna show you something that's gonna change your life
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
forever, right?
Yeah.
Um, and and then like I remember I was telling my wife a story. I saw Minus the Bear. I didn't know they were from Seattle. Moved to Seattle, realized that they played a lot of shows out here. Saw them with a friend of mine on New Year's Day. Had a special moment around that that was
Yeah.
just solidified in my brain. So I'm like thinking of that. But like I think what was so fun this time was I think because of a lot of the work that I've been doing personally around like trying to move and play and like just um kind of release myself from some of the shame and like uh, I don't know, whatever parts of me are like you got to stay small or whatever. To go out there and really like go for it
Yeah.
and to dance and to sing and like the first night there was someone to my left that was very much going for it as well, and I didn't speak to her, but it like I felt like we were best friends,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I was like, you're with me and I'm
Yeah.
with you and we're having this moment and it doesn't matter if there's anyone else here, right? And
Yeah.
like that sort of presentness for me, classically has been very rare.
Mhm.
I feel like I'm in front of myself in life often. I'm thinking about the next thing or, what else I have to do or what I need to go find. So having this moment, I think that, it's part of the power of music. It's like, Knox, don't look at your phone. Don't think about the next thing. Be in this song because this song will end and you
Yeah.
may never hear it played again.
Yeah.
Right. And that was super special. And I think that's exactly why I was like, you know what? I'm going to splurge. This time I'm going to take my wife. First night I went by myself. Like I got my wife to go. Um, and it, again, it just sort of felt like, uh, we don't like tomorrow's not promised. Like
Right.
I don't know if I'll ever see them play again. So I really want to like I want to be as present as I could, and I think I did a pretty good job. I feel like I made some memories that, like, if I ever do see them again, I'd be like, man,
Yeah. Yeah.
I danced, right?
Yeah.
Like, I was silly. I was like laughing and like jumping up and down, and like I felt the vibration of the music. I was open to it rather than like, there's a couple
Yeah.
people that were clearly too cool to
Yeah.
be there, which I totally resonate with. I'm like, I've been there, man. I'm
Yeah.
like, just
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
the tone's not great, and you missed a note here.
Yeah. What was really funny is when I talked to those guys, because I both talked to Corey, who's the bass player, and I talked to
Hmm.
Jake. And Corey, we kind of talked about the the fact. I mean, he's got just an amazing story, in one way or another. But essentially, like I told him, what they were able to do was take these two subsets of groups, which were people who wanted to just dance and have fun,
Right,
right? And then this technical piece as a musician,
right,
and oftentimes I think they were at odds with each other.
yeah,
Because, like, as a musician, I'm going, do you see what they're doing right now? Like, does anybody kind of see what's going on?
yeah, that's
You
real.
know? And I think like I looked at these people who were just enjoying themselves, or maybe who weren't like in the scene or whatever at the time.
Uh-huh,
Because Minds the Bear is one of the bands that I've seen probably the most, and
huh,
um, and just kind of had this like judgment of them,
uh-huh,
as and but Corey was talking about like that's what he loved, that they were taking two groups of people who maybe normally wouldn't just kind of like interact with each other
yeah,
and pulling it all together.
yeah,
Um, Just a side note, interestingly, this makes me really Huh, this makes me wonder. But I think towards their last tour, he had a really bad back problem. One of his
Uh,
vertebrae was completely like destroyed or something like that.
huh.
And he was like, I would play those sets in so much pain. He's like, there's times when I would lay down on the actual stage
Huh.
and play.
Huh.
He's like, I would have to crawl
Huh.
out of the backstage area to get
Uh-huh.
to my bass and then play a song, right? And he had also talked kind of about the trauma, and I don't know if these are related at all. I mean, probably not, but like, his way of dealing with his mom's death was just
Mm,
to not deal with it and
uh-huh.
just soldier on. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Stuff. And he was like, I probably shouldn't have done that, but like people work through grief in different ways.
Sure.
But I just that playing through that type of pain is just crazy to me. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and I don't know, man. I think the probably the I obviously I don't know him, can't really speak to his experience, but in mine, those things are always connected. Like, what an interesting area. And
Yeah,
we come at it from like often in Western medicine, it's sort of like, well, this is not connected to this, and to start to do so, I mean, you have to be careful, and it's a very sensitive thing to like, it is the death of someone connected to a pain that I'm feeling physically
right.
that like, yeah, like how would that pain manifest and what area would it manifest? I find that stuff incredibly fascinating because I've never seen it not connected,
Yeah,
which I come at very humbly because I never want it to be connected necessarily.
right,
Like it's a
right,
lot easier if it's like, yeah, it's
right.
just a bad vertebrae, man.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
just got
yeah,
to go
yeah.
get it. You just go get the thing. And but yeah, I mean, like I think it's interesting to imagine. We talked about this last time, like what kind of music literally a musician will make when they're in great pain or when they're avoiding something or when there's
Hmm.
a lot of conflict, right? Like you know, what was speaking of that guy? I don't. What's his name?
Great. Corey.
Corey.
Yeah,
What an animal! I
right,
have never listened to the bass, and I was just mesmerized by him because him and the drummer were just lockstep together,
right,
and that as a drummer, but as also someone that like when musicians are connected,
right,
you feel it, and when they're not if you're really listening. Like you can feel it in the fracture of like when they're playing and how they're looking at each other, and like to imagine that one of my bandmates, which one of my bandmates actually was when I was still playing music. Um, he had a really, really bad back problem and was in constant pain throughout the last year of our kind of recording process and shows. And I like now that I have experienced him post his back hurting, it was so illuminating. Be like, man, the tension that we were feeling as a band, but like almost like not acknowledging just in how much pain our friend was constantly and how costly it was to show up and to try to just do something that like was clearly frustrating him, that it wasn't coming easy, right? But like yeah, I mean it changed our music. It like when it wasn't talked about, it really like messed with dynamics relationally. um and when you got a large band, if you're not talking about the dynamics,
right,
they're talking. You'll hear
right. Oh
them,
yeah, yeah,
right? You'll hear
yeah,
them in the way the snare is hit. You'll hear them in the way that the guitar is struck. You'll hear them in the distortion. Um, if if you're listening.
yeah. Something that I found pretty interesting, kind of going back to just, I mean, we are talking about music, but something that kind of came up with Greg and I as we were talking last night, and I found this fascinating. So I'm kind of like
Yeah.
interested in this, and just your thoughts on it too. Was that he said one of the things that he's kind of how he connects with feeling is music, and so if he was like with my own therapist. if he
Mhm.
asks me how I'm feeling, I have to relate a song to it in order. Like I have to put,
Mhm.
I think in terms of like, he was even saying like in our conversation, he's like, as we're winding down, I'm thinking, what's the perfect music
Yeah.
to for this moment?
Yes.
And I found that so interesting using. I've never like even heard that before. I mean, I get it to a
Uh-huh.
sense of just being like, he's like, I'm not connected very much to my feelings, but when I'm asked about it, either like I have to relate a song,
Uh-huh.
or
Uh-huh.
a mood. What would fit what I'm
Uh-huh.
feeling right now, which I thought was just kind of like fascinating,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, because what's playing out is that like emotion, trauma, this is all right brain.
Hmm.
Like our relational schema is right brain, right? Left brain's more like cognitive, it's like language center, right? So if I'm like, what are you feeling? Like when you're verbalizing that to me, like, I'm feeling angry. There's a bunch of translation happening,
Right.
right? And you're pulling from your left brain um, when you're communicating that way. But if we were to say like, okay, I want you to like over here, one of my clients created this beautiful kind of art resonance deck, um, and they just have different colors. And so I I bought one of their decks because I thought it was brilliant, and I'll just ask people, okay, which one of these cards
Mhm.
is what you're feeling? And that entry point, right? It's like it gets away from the cognitive talking about
Right.
something and into the felt sense of it.
Hmm.
So music does the same thing. We can the reason why I do like mostly somatic work, like I'll often rather than being like, hey, tell me what you're feeling today or what do you want to talk about, it'll be like, um, you know, tell me what you're bringing in your body, tell me what you're bringing in with your mind. Like that these two things are in kind of relationship and conversation. And if someone's like, yeah, I got a headache, it's more often I'll follow that as my
Hmm.
primary compass of like, oh, let's spend some time with your headache. Like almost like
Yeah, that's
that's
pretty
where the
cool.
truth teller is, right?
Yeah.
Like, I was thinking about this earlier. It's kind of an aside, but because of our, I guess, connection and me starting to think again about like music in my life and things like that, I started realizing that a lot of the music that I listen to doesn't have words.
Hmm.
I love words. I'm a lyricist myself. They are really impactful when I'm in that state, I
Yeah.
guess. But I'm like really drawn to the unspoken. Like I'm drawn to the melody. I'm drawn to like right brain things.
Yeah.
And um, part of that, I think, I grew up in a family where words were not very trustworthy.
Hmm.
Like I'd have this really intense felt sense, which would be kind of right brain, like I'm feeling something relationally, and my like mirror neurons are picking up on someone else's mirror neurons, and there was in my house there was a lot of dissonance, there was a lot of unspoken emotion and hurt and anger and pain. But on the outside, the words were like, "No, we're good. Jesus
Yeah.
is good,
Yeah.
right?" And that dissonance killed me because a part of me knew something. I could feel it. It was like the music of it was
Yeah.
here, but the words were like it was kind of like a Sufjan Stevens song,
Hmm. Oh
which
yeah.
which I loved because I think kind of like my client I mentioned earlier, it was like something about that was my experience. It was like um, something kind of like folky and jovial and um, uh, lyrically just like brutal,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
ooh, what is he saying?
Right.
Jesus, like this
Yeah.
guy is like he is going after somebody right here, right? Like,
Yeah.
but that I think a lot for a lot of us when we start trying to put words to our emotions, we're like we're kind of leaving the thing that is
Mhm.
true. So you can tell me whatever you want, in a session, and I believe that that's a part of the story. But what I'm really actually focused on is like, how do you say it? How does it come out of you? Like, how are you breathing through it or not breathing? Like, almost like, what's the music of the way that you say the thing?
Yeah.
And that will tell me generally what's a lot more true about like what you've experienced as a person.
That's the unspoken.
Absolutely,
Right.
right? To
I,
have like to like that sort of music being one of those ways that sort of like kind of backdoors the whole system.
yeah.
I just it's brilliant. Like, and you don't. I'm never trying to trick anybody into like saying something.
Sure. Yeah. 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 No, I know what
But
you mean.
like the
Yeah.
amount of times where it's like, why don't you just draw? How about like just draw what you're feeling right now, and what will come out of them like, holy,
Yeah.
right? Like kids do this all the time. I don't know if your kids have brought home artwork, but I'm always so curious. I'm like, let's
Right.
see what they're
Right.
saying.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. That's it. Because I used to do a lot of child work, and
uh,
art was a part of it, and I never knew how specifically, because like sometimes kids draw things, and like you're trying to make like some sort of like inference of like this is how you feel, and in their mind they're just kind of like
yeah,
like
they're just going
like
with the flow.
yeah, or just like sand tray stuff.
Uh-huh.
There's
Uh-huh.
so much like intense focus on like what is this character saying, and like, and sometimes it's just like, well, kids just play. You know what I'm saying? Like kids just play.
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
and sometimes there's stuff to interpret through that play because kids are always acting out feelings within that play.
That's right.
You
That's
know,
right.
but I think we can get too analytical about it sometimes, and
Yep.
I mean, I think for the most part, kids just need presence, right? They
Yeah.
need somebody to be with them
Yeah.
and present with them. That can be the healing thing, right? To
Just
sit,
kids? Just kids?
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah,
It's like we all, yeah, it's like for them, it's the language,
right,
right? It's the music. It, love. I think therapy really is about an experience with love.
right,
And we all have a different, your experience with love, like you translate that, you have a concept of what that looks like and feels like. But like something that is free
hmm,
moving for you, right? Like benevolent, curious, open, like expansive, forgiving, like to give someone an experience with that song. Um, I mean, to me, that's really all therapy is ultimately about, is like watching them react to it, watching them reject it, watching it be repulsive because it's scary, right? Like, but I mean, back to what you were saying too, you analyze that stuff, if you analyze it too much, you create paranoia and
right,
anxiety and like, you know, uh, you pull someone out of the joy of being present by asking them to think about the thing that they're being present to. And that's no good,
right,
right? Like,
yeah,
that's not, I ain't trying to think, when I am thinking about what's his name? Dave Knudsen. When I'm thinking
Knudsen,
about what he's
yeah,
doing on guitar, like I'm having like a mental, it's very
right,
pleasurable mentally,
right,
but that's not the same as like a bodily pleasure, right? A
right,
bodily pleasure is like almost like feeling what he
yeah.
is producing, and being wrapped up in that, like almost having your attention there.
I think it's so cool because like I remember my own moments of when you're just kind of like standing at concerts, and sometimes like you said, you don't feel that freedom to kind of like let go, like when you're in the kind of emo music scene, there's either like an intense crazy energy that goes on, or
Yeah.
this kind of like
Uh-huh.
you know but I would
Uh-huh.
always kind of, I don't know, I would kind of find the younger me would be all over it, moshing, like crowd surfing.
Yep.
all of that because I
Yeah.
wanted to experience,
Yep.
and I think there were some things in myself, especially like some insecurities in myself where being I could be myself. I could be myself in the pit. And we talked about this last time,
Uh-huh.
just about that kind of communal sense. I was an incredibly, I don't want to say people pleasing, but I realized that the way that I could get people to like me was to be incredibly nice
Uh-huh.
and incredibly non-confrontative.
That's right.
And
That was your move. That was your
right,
special move.
right, and
Me too, by the way.
yeah, and it's enlightening, but there was this angry side of me, like this really angry side of me that I did not feel was acceptable
Yep.
to to express to my parents,
Yep.
and so I did it through music. I wrote this song in like my senior year, and it was very like like POD-ish, but not like rap. Like it was just very like just very heavy. And
Uh-huh.
my friends, and it was about a girl and feeling taken advantage of and things like that. And my friends' parents and my parents were like, "We're just gonna call that the angry girl song." But it kind of surprised them. But I was feeling I would listen to Slipknot and Korn and all these things. My parents were like, "Don't
Yeah.
ever listen to that stuff. It's demonic," or
Yeah.
whatever. But I was like, oh, I feel this, I can get this out in my car,
Uh-huh.
and then I don't know, go back to kind of like hiding myself. You
That's
know what I
right.
mean? And
That's
that's what it
right.
was. It was hiding who I was.
That's right.
You
And
know?
and I hear like almost like music, and this is true for me too. Like music, sports is another arena, I think, especially for men, where like it's an acceptable way to be angry. Like where, we're not at war, right? Like
Right,
that might be the only other place where you're like taking a sort of an aggression out in a way that's environmentally, culturally acceptable.
right,
But you get out there and it's like you have this massive, like you get to tell a truth
right,
without having to tell the truth.
right.
Like your
Yeah,
body tells the truth. Like
right.
your music tells the truth. It's
Yeah.
like, what? My mom asked me like, they sound under oath, they sound really angry. Like, why are they yelling? I'm like, I don't know, mom.
Right,
Like,
right, right, right.
let's not talk about it.
Oh, that's so interesting because I really like that music. There was a group of us who were seeing because I went to Oral Roberts University
Okay.
for 2 years.
Okay.
And I don't know if you're familiar with Oral Roberts University, but it's a pretty fundamentalist
Gotcha. Okay.
Christian college. And there was a group of us, and some of them are still my friends today,
Yeah.
that listened to Under Oath. And like my friend Dave introduced me to Under Oath before they put out Chasing Safety. And we were starting to get into this type of music, and we were listening to it. And I remember we played a battle of the bands and at the school, and we had written this song, and I wanted to be a screamer more than anything. Like I thought screaming was the coolest thing. But I remember this girl, like in our sister wings, we had like sister wings because all guys were in one dorm, all girls
Okay.
were in another dorm. And
Uh-huh.
so you would do stuff with your sister wing, and then you would like eat lunch together, stuff like that. We were just trying to create community. But this one girl was like, "Why do you guys scream?" And like said it with such disdain.
Uh-huh.
And I had an immediate reaction to it.
Huh.
I was just like, and thinking about it now, it felt like an affront on like who I was and something I identified with.
Yeah.
But there was this kind of edginess quality that I was like, well, this makes me different because I listened to it.
Yeah.
Um, I remember sharing this because I think I talked about the artistic impulse class that I took at the Seattle school.
Uh-huh.
And when I had done the Hopeful thing, I played the music,
Uh-huh.
which is like intense
Uh-huh.
screaming, right?
Uh-huh.
And what I talked about was there were some people who were cool with it. There were other people who were just kind of like, eh. And there's a band called Polar Bear Club, and they do like they scream in some of it. But he has a song where he's talking about a interaction he had with his neighbor who was like a lawyer, and he felt like this kind of music, he heard the band and practicing, and then he kind of gave his 2 cents, and he was kind of like, I feel like when you scream, it's it's aggressive, and like it separates you from like, like there's much machismo in it and blah blah blah
Huh.
blah.
Huh.
And his response in the song is, when I scream, it, I just needed more from the words that I wrote,
I love
right?
that.
And just that, like that scream is like, I've written something, and the way to express that, like I need more than these words,
Uh-huh.
to
Uh-huh.
I need to create something,
Uh-huh.
right? And I just thought that was so cool and so present, to for people to understand it's not about scaring people or being edgy. It's like, this is the way that I can express desperation, or I can
Yes.
express
Right.
what I'm feeling. When you
Yeah.
listen to Under Oath's lyrics, like there's shame and guilt and desperation
Yep.
in some of these things, right?
Yep. Yep.
How do you convey that? You know?
Man, yeah. When I was working at the Union Gospel Mission, I had kind of created a relationship with Antioch University and
Hmm.
their art therapy master's program. So their art therapists, or their in training art therapists, would come to the mission, and um, I had like kind of a young idea of like, okay, if homelessness is ultimately about like some sort of like relational, environmental, societal trauma. Okay. And that's, let's just say systematic trauma.
Hmm.
Not necessarily like a failure of a person or like some moral issue. Um, then I was like, okay, then we need to be doing some sort of trauma work. So we started creating kind of art therapy programs. Like we did a lot of art, and but we also did a bunch of kind of drama therapy. And I learned a ton through the process, and it made me very interested in how people could, prompts would be like, okay, who do you want to be today? Right? And I'd watch these different guys and I'd participate too. Like, you'd watch their minds go almost immediately to the thing that they couldn't be.
Hmm.
Like, I want to be like aggressive, or I want to be like, I don't know, whatever was like there, right? It was like they were drawn to it. You see this play out, I think, in really good Dungeons and Dragons
Hmm.
groups, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
what, who's your character and how do they act?
Right.
And people kind of, it's like they kind of make this confession. Sometimes they're aware of it, sometimes they're not, of like, I want to practice being honest, or I want to practice being sexual, or I want to practice being like, um, fearful, I don't know, whatever it is, right? Whatever is like in the shadow that they can't feel like they can embody in their real life.
Yeah.
um but like, music does the same thing. Like,
Sure.
how do we say the thing that we can't say, um in a way, like we're in a system that has certain judgments about how we talk and who we are, and we have a certain family system that might be like, it's not okay to like express these things, or it's not okay to show this kind of emotion. Um, and it gives us this place to confess in a way,
Yeah.
like, which is like, it's so pleasurable because it's like, finally, we're actually connected for a minute with like the whole truth. We get to play that
Right.
part. Um, but I think, like you said, often it's like we get to play that part for an hour and a
Yeah.
half, and then we have to go back to this very rigid, like oppressed, suppressed, repressed, like posture that, quite frankly, like demands that we find some way to go back to release. Like
Yeah.
most addiction, for like in my experience, is like if you really look at it, it's like a way that we're trying to find homeostasis,
Yeah.
right? So like if you're really stressed out, you're going to be addicted to something that's like a downer that's trying to bring the system down.
Hmm.
If you're really depressed, you're going to be, upper, right? If
Right.
like you can't be sexual, right? Like it's like these sort of shadow parts. And we demonize those things. We say like, no, 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 you shouldn't be like that's bad. That's poor language though. It's
Yeah.
not bad, it's telling,
Right.
right? It's
Right.
telling the story. And if you can grow that up with a person and kind of get out of the shame spiral, and you're like, ooh, your desire for that thing, beautiful.
Right.
It is a solution to a
Right.
problem. It is not the problem.
Right.
We just got to find a way to like say it more honestly, right?
Right.
To let it
Yeah.
live the rest of our life in it.
Yeah. And there's so much shame around addiction, right?
Totally. Totally.
Like, and it,
Totally.
yeah. And it's, I
Just
don't
like
know.
there's shame around being like screaming.
Right. Yeah. Or, one of the things that I found, I don't know, like your experience of playing live,
Uh-huh.
my experience of playing live, one, I was such an anxious kid. Like, I was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder when I was 14.
Uh-huh.
Anxiety gripped me.
Uh-huh.
But you put me on stage,
It was different.
at church or whatever, and it was different.
That's so interesting.
I felt alive in that moment. And I have worked with people who are severely socially anxious. But when they get into an art form or when they get on stage, it like all melts away. For actors, it's been being to embody somebody else,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
And it's also, to embody that character, but also this kind of sense of control that like I know what I'm doing, right?
Uh-huh.
Like I can hit the spot. I know exactly what I'm doing.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know what for me, because I was in like a screamo band in Seattle and we played the showbox and stuff like that. I was a bass player. So I didn't have to worry about a lot. Like it just in terms like most of it was just chugging on an open drop D. Like because that was
That
the kind
sounds
of
so
music.
enjoyable.
Yeah, and I would go nuts. I would just go nuts on stage. And not only did I like perceive myself as being cool, but I just felt alive. I was able to be free,
Yep.
right? And then getting off stage, I was like trying to be humble or shy or that kind of like really hyper focused person on how other
Mm-hmm.
people are experiencing things,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And there was just there was freedom
Yep.
about it, right? Even though like people are up there looking at you and
Yep.
you might make a mistake and you might be like, oh shit, I shouldn't have, you know. It's really interesting because I do feel like playing in a band is probably one of the most vulnerable things you can do. And what I mean by that is that when you are playing with different people,
Uh-huh.
you're kind of exposing a lot of your flaws. You're exposed like if you hit the wrong note, like somebody's gonna be upset about it, or like you are technically being judged on your technicality and
Sure.
how you play things,
Sure.
right? And you also get in this relationship with the other bandmates around you. Greg was saying last night, if you really want to know what like being married is like, get in a band and travel with them,
That's right.
and he's like, the most selfish parts of you come out, the
Yep.
most like friction comes out,
Yep.
and you are essentially married.
Yep.
You're married to an idea, you're married to people in relationship,
Yep.
and I was like, yeah, yeah, it's beyond me how bands stay together for so long.
Agreed. Yeah, because if with that same idea that like by the things that we're playing, like right, we're kind of telling a story. You can hide that when there's
Sure.
not like constant regular contact. And it's just I think that's to me marriage is a fascinating thing to study because, when you're dating, you can show the best parts of yourself to another person, or you can hide your anger, you can hide like whatever it is that is kind of in your shadows. But proximity and regularity, man, you do that for
Yeah.
long enough, and even if you think that you're hiding things, yeah, I mean,
Right.
an honest band member, I don't want anybody to take me up on this offer, but like I bet if any of my bandmates over the years would be like, tell me about Knox by like how he's been in your band. I mean, I think they'd know so much more than I would even think that they
Mm.
did. Um, the times when like clearly I'm insecure, or like clearly I don't like I'm overwhelmed, and like what my face does that I'm not I'm not consciously like I remember being in a season where I was really really overwhelmed, um just beyond stressed out, and every practice that I'd show up to I would just felt like a shell of a person.
Mm.
um and there's some people, and some, yeah, there's some people that just like they're not connected enough with themselves to even notice that I wasn't there to begin with. But then there's other folks that are like, bro,
Yeah.
like,
You okay?
yeah, like there is nothing in your eyes. Like you're seeing these songs just like literally flat because you're just not here. Um, anyway,
I mean, what was playing on stage like? What kind of experience was
yeah.
that for you?
Yeah, it's changed over the years. I think I reflected this last time. Like, I think I have a lot of gratitude that I need to express more directly and regularly to the artists that I've gotten to play with and friends that I've gotten to be in bands with, because um, I think because of the safety of some of those relationships, um, and kindness of those relationships, some parts of me slowly became able to be more myself, where I wasn't really worried if I hit a bad note.
Hmm.
Early when I was playing music, I was so terrified of making a mistake,
Hmm.
of what that would mean for like my hopes for being a musician, or like how that might like piss off somebody in my band, right? So I would play just like, I'm not breathing, and I'm like, okay, you just got to hit the right note, and like it was just about doing it right
Yeah.
every live performance. And what got actually really fun for me is I started to kind of play with even like alternate personas at the end of my time in my last band. I was like, I'm not a person that like I'm not a very aggressive person.
Right. Right.
That's a pretty uncomfortable posture for me. Like, I don't like being the center of attention. I really don't like being a front man
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. Maybe some parts of me secretly does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I I was playing around with the idea of like like just telling myself a very different story in my head. Like, hey, you're gonna fucking kill it. Like, you're gonna like rip this, right? And like it was interesting to embody, and getting up on
Hmm.
stage and just like having this, yeah, you're doing this right
Yeah.
now, right? And feeling much less concerned about actually playing the songs right, and much more concerned with like having a good time, and like just doing the thing that I knew how to do, and like reinforcing that with the way that I was talking to myself. And that doesn't always work, right? Like,
Sure.
um, but I think near the end, I had been through so much of my own therapy, and I had played the song so many times, and I had already, everybody had already seen me. Like, there wasn't a lot to risk. I wasn't going to be like a famous musician.
Right. Right.
I was
Right.
like, yeah, I mean, like when I mess up, it'll be
Yeah.
fine. I just want to
Yeah.
have fun.
Yeah.
And that's been a new development that, hopefully, if I play more music, will be something that can kind of follow me.
What what's keeping you from playing more music? Why did you drop it for a while?
Yeah. I think music, um, well, I started, for me, I started a project called Wilder.
Yeah.
It was, it's on, started in 2016. And the reason why I started was because I was lonely and I wanted friends. And I had an idea that maybe if I created like a reason for friendship, I forced people to like me.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
You're such a likable person, though.
Thank
I mean that genuinely. Like you really are.
you. Thank you. Um, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I think what happened in a nutshell is that, wanting the music to look a certain way and wanting everyone to have kind of full freedom and like authority and creative energy in a band. It's not that that's like, I don't know, maybe that's doable. Like, it's just really complicated.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
there was a lot of hurt in it, and there was a lot of friendships that were fractured. And I think when when you start to focus on a product, this happened both times that we recorded albums. That became like having a product that we were proud of became such a intense focus that the
mm,
relational harm it was doing, it was like, oh, the only thing that I talk to my friends about now is the project that we're doing
right.
and the tension in the project that we're doing and what each person has issues with, and it just became kind of toxic. And I think for me, I realized that part of what I do in those sort of environments or classically have done is that I like try to make it all work.
Hmm.
So I'd play out a little bit of my own like trying to keep the family together,
Right. Yeah.
which was a thing that I did as a kid, right? Like my
You're the
parents were in
peacemaker,
conflict. I was a
right?
peacemaker.
Yeah.
And, like you were saying earlier, like you can do that in certain seasons of life, but when you have your first kid, when you have like, we were trying to remodel ourselves, our house that we had
Hmm.
bought, that was just a crapshoot. And then we had our second kid, and there just wasn't enough space to hold that sort of stress. Um, like the only way that I think I could have continued playing music with that group of people was almost to have a reset where it was like, this doesn't really matter.
Hmm.
Like there's just too much that I think is important that
Right.
I'm being called to outside of it. Which has been, I think in retrospect, it's been really good for me to reset because one, I've been able to kind of rediscover friendships, which is like for me was much more important and always the point.
Right. Right.
Um, but I think I learned this lesson in grad school. I'd just come off of a different band and I came into the Seattle school and I saw my creative energy just go whoop,
Mm.
just gone. I had no songs in me. I didn't want to play music. And I think all that happened was that I shifted my creative like focus on school and like writing papers and having conversations and um, made a different kind of music. And when that shifted or when that season ended, it's like music came back in when I was ready for it and
Mm.
when I had space for it. So yeah, I mean, even I think I told you this the other day, like some sense of gratitude for you even starting this conversation, because I think it's almost been like at the end of a long season of not making music, it's been like, oh, kind of like going to shows, like, wow, I really like this.
Yeah.
So I've been, writing more, and I'm actually going this weekend to play some music for a friend's 40th birthday party.
That's
So,
awesome, man.
like,
It's in you. You will always come back to it, Knox. I really 100% believe that. Like
I do too.
I see that in you. And like I think as creatives just in general, like it'll always come back to us in a
Yeah.
certain sense. I think when we get too serious about it, when we take ourselves too seriously,
Yeah.
a lot of the
I
time,
feel that.
a lot of the time when I've heard other musicians say that they've stopped the band or like whatever, or why they're not doing music. A lot of it comes back to I don't have anything to say.
Yeah.
There's nothing, and that's really interesting to me because it's like we felt like we had things we needed to express, either lyrically, right, or lyrically, and it's
Uh-huh.
like the performative side comes in, the business side
Uh-huh.
comes in and steals that,
Right.
and it's
You're writing for someone else.
yeah, you're writing for someone else. This is really interesting. Um, I know that. So I was talking to Chad Johnson. I don't know if you know who he is.
Mm-mm.
Do you know what Furnace Fest is?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So he runs Furnace Fest.
Okay.
He basically like signed under oath. He signed Hoax Fall to his 238 to his record label, which was Take Hold Records. But kind of essentially, what he was talking about is that at a certain point, Under Oath had written this song called "When the Sun Sleeps," and it was a little bit more accessible than some of their other stuff. And so Brandon Ebel, who was the owner of Tooth and Nail, when he listened to their album, I can't remember the album before Chasing Safety was like, "There's not a hit here. Like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we need
Mm-hmm.
more songs like this."
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of talked about what that process was like for them. Did they resist it? Did they?
Uh-huh.
And Chad was just kind of like, I think that they wanted to move forward in their career and they saw this kind of as a pathway.
Yeah.
But that just kind of be like the adaptation of changing your sound, whatever. It's just interesting to me.
It's a lot like life.
Right. And having to kind of, yeah, change I don't want to say to necessarily please, because there's still art form in that, but like you have to change something about what you're doing if you want to make it to a different level, you know?
Right. Yep.
This is really funny too, because I was talking to Greg last night. Actually, I don't know. I don't think I can put this in, but I'll exit out. Chad was an A&R rep for Tooth and Nail, and the Pale, was more piano rock based. And he sat down with Chad, who was an A&R rep at that time,
Mm-hmm.
and another guy, and he was at that he was at the meeting, and it was just Greg because he was their artist representation, and Chad was basically like, "So, like, we're interested in you guys. We need you guys to be a little bit more aggressive. Never want to hear a Rhodes piano on your song ever again, whatever." And Greg was basically just like, "You will never be the ones to tell us what to do," and basically like told them to go fuck themselves. And it was, he was being true to what they were
Yeah.
writing, right? And if they were going to be more commercially successful, they would have had to change something, you know?
Well, and isn't this the bind? Like, I know we kind of stumbled into this, but it feels like this is the bind of being a person.
Right,
Like, you see it playing out with like music in this way, where something that was like a form of like honest expression is not palatable or is scary to a culture. And you have those musicians that are just like dirt poor, but they
right,
say exactly what they want to say, right? The part of them that's like, but how do I make money?
right,
Like,
right.
isn't
How do I
working.
live? Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah,
And they're kind of, they're perhaps like a little neglectful of some realities that they need to steward. But they're saying exactly what they want to say, and they're kind of moving with that like energy, regardless of consequence. But then there's like a million other iterations of this as you push it further,
right,
right? Where it's like, to what extent will I give away something honest to make it more palatable, in the hopes that that actually might like return to me in some way? And that like when art's not about making money, that's not really a thing as much. It maybe it's
right,
just a smaller thing.
right. Yeah,
But as soon as it becomes about like, will other people like it? How will they respond? Will I get affirmation from this? Will I make money from this? then it's like the music starts to, there's someone else singing
Yeah, and
into it.
I think too. I think when a band makes it right, and talking to Steve Lamos from American Football, they don't really have to worry. They're old. They're old.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's got another job as a professor at the University of Colorado.
Yeah.
Like, it's more like doing it for fun. And
That's
one of
right.
the things that I thought when we hung out and got coffee together that was so cool and just so like respectful was he's like, I never take this experience for granted. And I'm always thinking about whether or like songs that we wrote when we were 20 years old and I'm 50. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this, how do I be a good steward of this experience for
Yeah.
people? You
I
know?
love that.
Yeah, and I thought it just kind of blew my mind a little bit, just in the sense of like, it's stewardship, right? I have this thing that I can create for people. People hear my music,
Yeah.
they hear like this beautiful experience that they have communally.
Yeah.
How do I steward that?
Yep.
All I want to make sure it's not about money. It's just like, am I taking this experience and stewarding it in a way for other people, that's good,
Yeah.
right? And I
Which
just thought that was so beautiful,
I love it. I think we talked about this last time. It resonates with the an episode of the telepathy tapes about
Mhm.
creativity where I forgot the host, but she throws out the hypothesis that maybe like creativity is something that comes to us,
Yeah,
and that one, are we open to when it comes, but two, like, will we do the hard work of like being a good steward, right?
yeah,
Like that this thing that's not actually mine. I'm really taken by this. I think when we think about music or art being mine, um, it turns into something competitive,
mm,
right? Like there's like threats. Like I'm trying to make it something, or I'm trying to show, like, to be someone, perhaps. Um, but if we think about like the creative impulse is almost like this gift that, like, if we're open to it, I
right.
don't know, the universe or God or like whatever, like, sort of sends us this like beauty, and we get to put our fingerprints on it in a unique way. But like, it's not ours when we release it. It's like it wasn't ours to begin with. It wasn't ours as we let it go. And if that's the posture, the freedom in that
Mm,
is so much different for me, at least. I'm like, I
yeah,
don't, there's a part of me, talking to you as an example, there's a part of me that is anxious about, am I going to say the right thing? Am I going to represent myself and my practice and my clients and the stories that I think are important? And, is this will this be like a good thing, right? Which creates a shit ton of anxiety for me
right.
because I'm already worried prematurely about, I don't know, making a mistake, or like that there could be a mistake in this. But if
Mm,
it's more like I'm just gonna show up and be myself as best as I can with someone that I respect who is like themselves, and we'll create whatever we create, and maybe for someone that'll be like a gift.
yeah,
Um,
the hope is resonation,
exactly. Like
right?
suddenly it doesn't feel so heavy. I won't be tired at the end of this because it's like I'll have some anxious parts like show up and be like, I cannot believe you said that. Because that happened last time.
Oh,
But
really?
like it did.
Huh.
Like the um yeah, like the parts of me that are, this is a very vulnerable thing, right? We didn't plan what we were going to talk about.
Yeah,
Um and I like to be in control.
right, right.
And I don't like when I'm not in control that I'm recorded. Um
Yeah.
but like, to sort of like go into that, do the thing. I'm expecting that there'll be like a little of a emotional hangover, vulnerability
There
hangover.
always is for me.
Is that true? Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever I come off of
I wondered about
calls,
that.
I usually feel grateful, but I also feel like emotionally exhausted
Exactly.
by it.
Exactly.
Um, the thing is, I can go two ways with the podcast. I can keep it centered on certain questions,
Uh-huh.
or I can let it go where it goes, right? And when I'm frameworking it, the part of me that is wanting to free flow and have it's not for anybody else, it's just for me,
Mm-hmm.
is having
Mm-hmm.
this connection with the people that I'm talking with.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
we go down roads of like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily you've talked about your music career. I like I want to touch bases, maybe even for a selfish reason, on other parts of you,
Uh-huh.
you know?
Uh-huh.
And I mean, I really got into a conversation with one of the guys from May just about philosophy and Christianity and where he finds himself,
Yeah.
within this
Yeah.
process. And it barely had anything to do with music,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it was
Yeah.
like gen genuineness is always vulnerable, but authenticity and genuineness, I feel is is what we're all looking for.
Yep.
We're scared of it.
Yeah.
We're scared of exposing ourselves in certain ways. But man, when we encounter it, it is either frightful to us that a person could be that genuine, right? Or that authentic because it puts us on the defensive, or it's a beautiful
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
interaction,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
I
And
resonate with that.
yeah, and so when I do these interviews, like I just want it to be a genuine interaction because I feel
Yeah.
like people can feel that and experience it,
Yep.
you know? And vulnerability is powerful, right? But it is fucking scary.
Of
It
course.
is so scary, in so many different ways. And yeah, I mean, it's funny what something that I really like about teenagers and working with teenagers is that they can smell bullshit from a mile away. They know when you're not being authentic,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know? And it allows like this is why I wear Converse and jeans and a hoodie in therapy because I don't give a shit about looking professional.
Sure.
It's not me. You know what I
Sure.
mean? And like, I have never encountered anybody who's been like, you dress a little casually, like, for this job. If anything, I get like parents who are like, you look cool. You look like somebody my kid could relate to,
Uh-huh.
you
Uh-huh.
know?
Uh-huh.
And having a genuine interaction. Like I don't, they're so good at just being like, you're fake. Why would I want to talk to you?
Right.
You know?
Right.
And there's two things that I do to kind of disarm. One of them is just the way that I dress. The second is this has only backfired like once or twice on me, is I curse in the middle of the session. And you would be surprised. And this comes from my own story
Uh-huh.
of growing up feeling like I couldn't curse and I couldn't
Uh-huh.
I couldn't be my authentic self in front of my
Uh-huh.
parents,
Uh-huh.
right? And I got into a counseling space where I was like, "Ooh, can I say this word?"
Sure. You whisper it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and he was cursing back and it was just kind of like I felt such a relief, you know? And the amount of
Yep.
anxiety that you feel that a kid feels in coming into therapy because they're set up by their parents usually,
Yep.
and to just get them off, like, I don't know, to kind of just like flip them off whatever kind of like foundation that they're standing on a little bit, to be playful about it, um, is fun for me. I find it.
Sure. You get to surprise them, right?
Yeah, yeah. And like then genuine action, they're like, oh, I don't have to police myself,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
And I find that like amazing, you
Yeah,
know?
and when you talk about that, Jeremy, I think what I've been reflecting on a lot since um, we kind of re-engaged some of this stuff was like that this is all music.
Mm,
It's all music. It's like, you know, when you cuss and they cuss back, and there's this like resonance of experience and honesty where something is not held back, right? It's like, you know, you're in the mosh pit again, right?
Right.
You're saying the thing that can't be said. And I think that's what's so transformative about. That's why I love therapy because it gives us the opportunity to really say something. That's also why I love music,
Yeah.
right? Um we're always confessing this stuff anyway. Like our lives will always say the things that we're not saying
Mm.
by some backwards means if we really look at it. But the pleasure of actually seeing that integrated into your life, where you are saying the thing that you feel and being the person that you are, kind of regardless. Like to me, that's like leadership.
Mm.
That's like that's the point of trauma work. It's not to recover something old. It's actually to expand something that never was
Mm.
into something bigger, right?
Yeah.
Like, um, if that, you know, and that's what that's why I'm excited. That's why I love being a therapist. That's what I'm after. Because seeing that stuff play out in whatever means it does, right? What, you know, if it's someone by you being like saying a cuss word and your client being like, you're allowed to say that?
Right.
This person that's like an authority said
Yeah.
this, right? You're opening like their imagination to a new possibility, which is like the point of relationship,
Right.
especially if you're like, let yourself be in a relationship with people that are different than you.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I love that, man, because you're singing a song. It's like a call and response,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's
and there's
always
play.
that yeah, play and dance and moving back and forth and even talking about the in between of what's going on,
Totally,
and
totally.
it's interesting because I will name the power dynamic, but I will forget about the power dynamic sometimes. And
Yeah,
that power dynamic that they're experiencing
yeah,
exists,
yeah,
right? And I have to keep my mind on that sometimes, just simply because if I forget about it, right? And maybe I don't feel that power imbalance,
yeah,
but everywhere else those kids are experiencing that power imbalance,
yeah.
school, doctors, parents, all those
Sure,
things.
sure,
I have to recognize that. You know what I
sure.
mean? I have to recognize that dynamic in the room. And sometimes I find myself forgetting that, probably to the detriment of the client. Um, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
what is it? Like to name something,
Yep.
right? The acknowledgement of like, because I usually just say, I'm just a dude who has some education and a good intuition
Uh-huh.
on
Uh-huh.
things. You know what
Uh-huh.
I mean? Like I kind of see you, as weird as this sounds, as almost like a peer,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
And for me, that's disarming. You can get into a whole other philosophical, like, is that a good thing to say in therapy, whatever. But like, I just don't. I don't care. Like I care about breaking somebody being able to be themselves,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
And I think that's healing to me in some senses too,
Sure.
right?
Especially when it's like an integrated thing, right? Like when so I think folks that have a lot of trauma, I would say that they have the same special power as like kids, which is
Mm,
they're particularly able to spot disintegration.
right.
Like they know when your words and like actually what's going on inside of you are not the same thing. And you will do no good work, in my opinion,
Mm,
if you're not actually integrated. Like if you actually hate your client,
mm,
but you're just saying, "Oh man, I care so much about you," like they'll feel it
yeah.
and they will not trust you. And I love that. And I've learned so much from it because it's just like, okay, because this is true, if I'm going to show up into a room with you, we just have to practice telling the truth
Right.
because you're going to know, right? Like
Yeah.
it also makes it so much more powerful when I'm like, hey, you're amazing and I
Right.
respect you
Right.
so much, right? Or like, I'll often say that, like, um, uh, especially with things that are more kind of like addiction or like often negatively thought of, like a mental illness in general. Like I want my clients to see that they're adaptive and beautiful, and
Mm.
that there may be like they need some translation and they need to be grown up a little bit, but they're not something that we're trying to get rid of. Um, but I know that like if I don't really believe that,
Mm.
again, they'll see it, they'll
Yeah.
know it. Um, so sometimes I'll be like, I'll say a very uncomfortable thing like, man, that makes so much like, man, your addiction to pornography is brilliant. That's so brilliant how you figured out how to do that. And I'll watch them being like, what?
Yeah.
What's happened? And a part of the thing that I'll even verbalize sometimes, like, you know that I'm being honest. What? That's weird, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I really believe that. And they're like, I don't like that I know that you are being honest in this way. I'm having an error right now
Yeah.
because I truly do. I'm like, what? That is, we gotta learn how to maybe steward it differently, to use your word. But
It's
like the
yeah.
heart behind it is like beautiful. And that's not how
It's
people relate to the
yeah.
things that are bad.
It's
Bad.
super interesting. Just my work with teenagers. It's very. It always kind of blows my mind. I don't. Do you work with any teenagers?
I don't work. I have I think one still.
Yeah.
Um,
I
Mostly
feel
adults at this point.
I feel like when people are like I see, 5 to 60. I think you can be sort of a Swiss Army knife, but just like different ages need different things
Hmm.
and different presence. And
Hmm.
like I want to be, I don't know, I just like that population.
Hmm.
And for many different reasons, even
Yeah.
some identification of myself
Yeah.
in them. But one of yeah, they appreciate honesty more than anything.
Yep.
And I will say in session, given the situation and feeling the person out, just kind of like, I will tell you if I think you're being an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, I will tell you if like what you're doing is
Yeah.
stupid,
Yeah.
and they laugh and they're like, okay, because there's, I'm not gonna bullshit them. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, does it matter what I think? Probably not. But the fact that they're like, yeah, you can do that.
Uh-huh.
I'm not gonna let anybody else do that in my life.
Uh-huh.
It's
Uh-huh.
gonna hurt if somebody does that.
Uh-huh.
But like, I know you're being honest and also playful within it. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like, and they respect that, you know?
Yeah, and I'm articulating this out loud for the maybe the first time, but like my sense is that like, with kids and teenagers, you're actively forming them.
Right.
With adults, you're almost having to unravel this thing,
Yeah.
right? Like it's already so solidified and so like identified in their personality. If they don't understand how it works, that like it's almost like you got to rewind the tape to
Right.
understand how it all makes sense. With
Right.
kids, it's like they're actively forming those things. And it's just different. You're saying different things. It's
Right.
not like, wow, we got to understand this so that we can move forward. It's like,
Right.
do you see how you're doing it right now? And
Right.
like this is problematic. And
My gift, so to speak, for myself and is I like the formation,
mm-hmm,
not necessarily the deconstruction.
mm-hmm,
I always say like it's easier. There's something internally, whatever, is working with adults where it's kind of like this is solidified in a way that's going to take a lot of work, a
mm-hmm,
lot of introspection, and a
mm-hmm.
lot of like there's concrete things that we now have to kind of like
Yep,
chip away at,
yep,
where maybe with a teenager or something like that, trauma hasn't solidified,
yep.
right?
That's
It
right.
hasn't completely changed the neural pathways yet or
That's right.
something like, or they're more pliable in that.
That's 100% all of that. It feels
Yeah,
so true. It feels
yeah,
so true. Yeah, and when it's funny when you identify with like I guess the part that draws you to, I love the archaeology. Like
Yeah.
I love archaeology. I am so enthralled with like hidden mysteries and like a lot of my work is around kind of somatic expressions or like autoimmune diseases or kind of like these weird things that seem to escape explanation. I love it. I love it. They're so fascinating and fun for me to try to like unravel
Mm.
and like how they fit in a system and like how they work and what their function and purpose is. Um, yeah, but I mean, like I was the kid dreaming about being Indiana Jones, but not the part with the gun, just the part of like discovering an ancient Mayan
Yeah,
temple or
yeah.
something.
Oh, that's cool stuff. Yeah. Um,
I got to jump off, man.
yeah, man. I love you.
Love you
Thanks
too.
for coming on, man. Have a good rest of the day.
You too.
Bye. That's it for the episode. I'd like to thank my guest, Knox Burnett, for coming on. Safe and Sound Podcast is a labor of love by me, Jeremy Houtsma, licensed mental health therapist. The intro music is Burned Out and Broken In by The Beautiful Mistake, and the outro music is Safe and Sound by Small Brown Bike. Please do me a favor and give us a rating on whatever podcast platform that you're currently listening on. If you're one to use social media, you can find us on Instagram at The Scenecast or on TikTok at Safe and Sound Podcast. Thank you guys, and we'll see you next time.